Queue times. We chat parks while you wait.
Hello.
Good morning.
Oh.
Thank you, Joe. Honestly, I really appreciate the time that you've taken to talk to me about everything and just to go through it. And I brought my friend Melman with me as well to ask a few questions. So my first question is actually the 1Q question. What do you believe is the best queue line in Europe? And by that, I mean, what is a queue that really adds to the experience of the ride?
That is a really good question. I think, to be honest with you, each ride, especially more in Europe rather than kind of in the UK, the UK, there's certain parks that do well. Alton Towers, of course, probably the best. I'd say, well, in fact, no, I'd say probably Bolton's Park, realistically. Sorry, from that side. But in terms of best queue line, I've got to go to Efteling with that one because, Dance Macabre, it's a real one-of-a-kind attraction in more ways than one. The ride system itself is obviously the only kind that is operational in the world right now. But the queue line itself really does kind of set a tone before you get onto the ride. And, if you haven't already kind of experienced that, you'll see what I mean when you go. You're literally having that experience from the moment that you enter the queue line. You're walking around the Abbey ruins, you go through the graveyard, there's a bit of an experience in there. And then you make your way kind of up to obviously where the ride itself actually is. And the approach to that building is truly something different. It really is. It does not feel like you're in a theme park. That's all I'm going to say. So for that reason, I've got to give it to Dance Macabre with that one.
Excellent. That's a fantastic answer. I really look forward to that, actually. I keep seeing, was it Ride Comparisons Dance Macabre hoodie ever, and I thought at some stage I'll get myself one. My next question, what is the best flat ride in Europe? A flat ride that you believe could go into any park and would steal the show?
Question. Obviously I'm more of a coaster guy than a kind of flat ride guy. It's a difficult one, really, because with flat rides you want to have a unique experience. We've got quite a lot here in the UK now. I'm personally a massive fan of a top spin, and for that reason, Talican over at Phantasialand. Toxicator is amazing at Alton Towers, it really is. It's a very different experience, but Talican is a show. It's a real kind of theatrical experience, both for those that are on the ride, but also those that are off the ride as well. And just the fire and the water, the fountains, the effects, the music, it's a truly immersive experience. And I feel something like that would fit perfectly in any kind of park, both here in the UK and in Europe. So yeah, a top spin, I've got a real soft spot for that one.
Absolutely love a top spin. Couldn't agree with you more there. I'd love to know what you think is the most intense ride in Europe, and that could be anything, just as in, not necessarily the best, just in terms of the forces.
Yeah, there's a few out there, obviously, but I think probably the most intense one I've experienced so far has to be Voltron at Europa Park. That thing just literally does not let up from the minute that you leave the station. You go into that kind of really unique sort of launch experience where the train sort of bounces, and then the minute it sort of like lets you go and launches you kind of literally vertically, it's just one ejector airtime moment after the next. Every single element on that ride feels like it is trying to throw you off that train, make no mistake. And the central part of it with the turntable, you kind of get a bit of a backwards launch, and that is probably the least intense part of the ride. It just rockets you forwards. It's unbelievable. It's one I've only been able to do twice in a row. Normally I can ride things quite a few times, but with that one, it was that intense. I came off the second time and had to take an actual break from the day as well. So it's an incredible ride. It really is an absolute must. But yeah, for me, I'd probably say that's the most intense.
Oh, fantastic. That's really good. I'm absolutely looking forward to getting on Voltron as well. I think Europa Park is going to be one of the big ones, I think, for me in terms of the ones that I most enjoy.
It's amazing, trust me.
What is a ride that actually took you by surprise? So something that you went into with perhaps low expectations or different expectations, and the actual experience presented something different entirely.
Question again. I think with me, probably Dreamflight at Efteling, because I knew going into it, obviously it was about fairies. I knew obviously that it was all this kind of fantasy and fairy tale, and ultimately you went through a bit of a dream sequence. But there was a certain moment in that ride towards the back end of the ride that I didn't see coming at all. Basically going up and up and up, and you'll find out for yourself what happens, but it's just something I didn't see coming at all. And coming off that ride and obviously seeing just how authentic it kind of is to all the Jim Henson stuff from like the early days, like Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, sort of Time Bandits. It really does have that feel, and it's got that kind of appearance as well. And I came off and I had to go straight around for another ride because I was that blown away by it. It literally left me in tears. I was just completely blown away. And that happened a lot with rides at Efteling. There's a lot of really unique, special, magical attractions there. But Dream Flight for me was just that one that I had to do it again. I really did.
Sometimes I think actually the kind of theming and the experience can almost outweigh the intensity of the ride, and you can really have a polished tearjerker, as you say, versus a tearjerker for the wrong reasons, perhaps.
I mean, ultimately you go to a theme park, don't you, to kind of immerse yourself and lose yourself on, in that world. You leave all your problems at the door, you go in and you literally just let yourself go and enjoy your experience. And there are certain times, especially at kind of European parks, where you will completely forget you're at a theme park, and you'll come off and it will have that much of an emotional impact. Dance Macabre had the same kind of exact sort of impact on me the first time I rode it. Just the amount of stuff that happened and the way that the ride kind of did what it did, it literally left me in tears at the end as well. And I'm not afraid to admit that. I'm really not. If I'm emotionally affected by something, then that means they've done their job to an absolute T. So yeah, nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
100%. It happens to the best of us. I get like that after a smooth ride on Colossus.
That's a very rare one, is that one?
Unicorn ride, that is. Which park suffers the most in bad weather, where the experience ultimately falls completely apart when we see some rain or snow, or perhaps even too good weather?
I mean, the one part that I've I've struggled with, should I say, and it's more in the hot weather, realistically. Here in the UK has to be thought apart because it's such an open park. No matter where you stand, there isn't really much shade anywhere. A lot of the queue lines are all very exposed. The Swarm is probably a really good example of that one. And there's been days where I've gone there, and because it's been that warm, I've not obviously been kind of too conscious of drinking lots of water, and that's because I've lost myself so much in a day. And I've got to the back end of it, and I've literally been as pink as a lobster. I kid you not. And obviously, I've been really dehydrated as well. So for that reason, in terms of the hot weather fall, definitely. But I'd say probably for bad weather, it's got to be Blackpool Pleasure Beach because it's so exposed on the kind of coast there as well. And the minute they get any strong wind, half the rides will probably end up either closing down or being sort of delayed in terms of opening. So, different parks for different reasons. But I'd probably say Blackpool's left the biggest impression in terms of sort of bad experience for me in the past.
It's very interesting you say that. And do you think that Invictus will be just as affected by the bad weather as the remainder of the attractions at Blackpool?
I've got to admit, it is kind of there in my mind. I am a little bit worried. But at the same time, it's a flat ride, it's intimate, it's new gen, it's got a lot of technology in it now that could potentially sort of counteract that. I'm not as kind of worried about that one as I am sort of the likes of the big one, stuff like that, because of course, that's a much older ride system. But there is a slight chance, I'd say, that Invictus might be slightly affected by that.
Okay, very interesting, very interesting. It's your most overlooked ride in Europe, and that's something that people generally walk straight past or think to swerve it, and for you it's number one, or perhaps just definitely one for the course.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, every ride I've kind of gone on, I've not had a bad ride. And for me personally, I've got to come back to the UK for that one, really, because Curse at Old Manor for me holds a real special place in my heart. It's a ride that you ride once and then you think, done it, don't need to do it again. Go and give it a few more rides, because I can guarantee there's stuff in that kind of building in there that you're not going to have seen the first time. And also the fact that I'm a massive Gothic horror fan as well. I love my horror, I love Gothic horror, and that ride is exactly what it should have been from day one. Obviously they had a classic haunted house ride back in '92. It got moved over to Jewel, obviously in the early 2000s, I think it was. And it really let itself go with that version. But what they've done now, they've really breathed new life into that attraction. So go in, have a fresh look around, and I can guarantee you'll spot a couple of things you've not seen before.
It's very interesting. It's almost like watching your favourite movie time and time again and missing those kind of details. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Quite literally, yeah.
One last question for you, and then I have a bonus question at the end. What is one park that you will absolutely never skip? I suppose that you could say that all of the parks are good, as you say, you've not had a bad experience, but what is one that is absolutely every year it's on the hit list?
Efteling. Got to be Efteling, without shadow of a doubt. every time you go there, you have a different experience. It really is kind of an escape from everyday life, and there's just so many rides in there that even though you've ridden them once or twice, I mean, you can have different experiences every single time, and Symbolica is a really good example of that. Byron, of course, you know, they've made some major updates to that. The Vliegende Hollander, which of course is a Flying Dutchman, they've done some amazing stuff with that over the years. They've kept updating and changing scenes and stuff like that. So with Efteling, there always is something new to see, whether it's a major kind of brand new ride or whether it's just little subtle differences around the park. And I like going back each year to just kind of sort of see what actually, you know, has changed or what they've added, just to kind of sort of get the updates on there, but also just to kind of go and enjoy the atmosphere, you know, there as well, because the Dutch people are absolutely amazing. They're so friendly, they're so welcoming, and each trip I've had there has been an absolute pleasure. So yeah, I'll never skip on Efteling.
And it's funny that you mentioned, you know, Efteling being such a magical place, whereas they don't really have any of the IPs of the likes of Disneyland, whereas that park's kind of been in, you know, limbo, as it were, for the last kind of decade or two. So it's great that, you know, Efteling can create that magical atmosphere. It's bugging me for a very, very long time. I can see an easy 100 pins within the iconic TPI setup. I would love to know which is the best or the rarest. It's a show and tell situation. Show me what you got. Show me the best one you have.
Right, well, I mean, I can move my camera because I'm actually using my action cam, but we've got quite a lot there, as you can see.
It's almighty.
So it's all kind of sectioned up. You've got Disney here, you've got some European parks and kind of non-related theme park stuff. Efteling over there. You've got, well, sorry, Fort Park there, and then obviously kind of two boards full of Alton Towers ones. The one I would say, though, the most is probably this one, and I'll take it off the board and show it to you properly. Not down there like that. Is the OG Nemesis pin.
Yo, that's awesome.
And that's the original Alchemy Nemesis pin that got released in the actual opening year. It's a personal favourite. I love it. I spent so long trying to get hold of it as well. It was really difficult to find that reasonable price because, of course, with it being so rare, it's really expensive. But the thing with me is obviously collecting little, you know, pins and stuff like this. I don't mind spending a bit of money if it's a pin that I really want, and if, you know, it's one I've been sorting after for a long time. So yeah, I keep adding the ones, you know, the newer ones each year. Not all of them, just ones that I like. You know, I don't go out and buy absolutely everything. The only one I will get every year is normally kind of like the year pin for the park. But ultimately, if I like it and I see it, and obviously I've got the money to do it, I'll go for it.
That's amazing. I think it's really important that we don't kind of just buy the slot because it's being offered. You know, it's kind of like, well, we'll pick the products that actually are good, and it kind of incentivizes the parks to pick better merch, you know, effectively. So I really support that. Wanted to touch on as well is kind of the channel that you've been working on, My Final Cut, and of course the kind of new side to TPI. I'd love for you to kind of talk about it and tell me what's upcoming and kind of what your plans are for the year.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, as a lot of you will see, I've dropped the old channel. It's gone. I've done that for various reasons. I've gone into it kind of over New Year. I'm not going to go into it again on here, but ultimately I've restarted the TPI YouTube. It's not something I was originally going to do, but I think moving forward it's going to be something that's probably going to, you know, be a good asset to have. Mainly just from my POVs, news updates. There will probably be vlogs at some point. I'm not going to go back into sort of doing every single park vlog that I do. And of course, there'll be Lost River and etc. You know, updates with that and first reactions and all that sort of stuff. So there's still going to be elements of the old channel there. But ultimately, you know, kind of taking it back to the drawing board and starting again has really given me a chance to ensure that I'm hitting the right things with YouTube. Because as a lot of you will know, and yourself especially, YouTube is very much a creative process. In terms of being able to hit the right algorithms, the right audience, that sort of thing, and the old channel just wasn't doing that in terms of obviously it was here, there and everywhere. There was way too many elements to it, and with this, you know, I'm kind of tailoring it a little bit more so it's more focused around theme parks and rides and that sort of thing. But as you say, I've set up My Final Cut. With this one, it's more of a horror slash kind of movie slash food, bit of everything really. And obviously the name itself, you know, My Final Cut, ultimately kind of lends itself to, you know, sort of my final decision or my final say, you know, that sort of thing. But it's little areas, and especially kind of film. It's something I've been really passionate about since I was a child. I used to collect VHS tapes back in the early 90s, all the way through obviously until when we transitioned over to DVD. And I've always made sure that I've got probably the best kind of sort of home cinema kind of setup I can have as well. Simple fact, I love watching films at home. I don't like going to the cinema. I don't like having people in the back of the thing messing around with phones, shining torch. It does my head in.
Chopping
It really
popcorn.
does. Yeah, and throwing things. It just ruins the experience. And when it's something you've wanted to see for a long time, it just ruins it. So what I like to do is ultimately nowadays there's roughly about 2 to 3 months between the film hitting the cinema and then obviously coming out on Blu-ray or DVD. I'm quite happy to buy the Blu-ray. I collect physical media. It's a really good asset to have because at the end of the day, if a streaming platform goes down, you still got a copy of it. And then obviously I'll watch it. If I like it, I'll keep it. And if I don't, I'll sell it and get rid. But ultimately, it's just a little bit of a side project. There's no aim to kind of monetize or do any of that sort of thing with it. It's just to have a little bit of fun, basically, and a little bit of distraction away from TPI and just something different to focus my time and attention on. So yeah, if that's your sort of thing, go check it out.
Yeah, absolutely, I will. And it's funny because you say about horror. So horror films don't actually scare me necessarily. I can deal with the gore, I can deal with the bits and bobs. However, I am absolutely terrified of robots. Think Terminator, think Skynet, think all the other bits and bobs.
I get that.
So it doesn't really sit very well for me as someone who goes to theme parks and we go, oh, look at all these animatronics, and there's me going, yeah, that's something. Yeah,
I've got Freddy Fazbear coming to mind right now.
Exactly like that. Yeah, it's a Small World. It's basically Five Nights at Freddy's just on repeat for me for 10 minutes. So
yeah, I hate that ride. I've done it once and I won't do it again. Simple as. Not for the animatronics. I just can't stand the song. It gets stuck in your head. It's enough to drive you insane. So
would you rather listen to that mindlessly or the Smiler song?
I think I'd probably rather take the Smiler song realistically. I think. I mean, both bad, but the lesser of two evils, right?
Absolutely. Well, Joe, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it, and we'll be in touch. Have a wonderful day.
Absolute pleasure, mate.
Cheers, Joe.
Fantastic. Take care.
Bye.
Let me know who you'd like to see next in the comments. Till next time.